Recently, I had my friend Melissa Yoder on my podcast, and we talked about everything from astrology to human design and even something called gene codes. Gene codes isn't something I'm very familiar with. Here's how she told me about it on the pod.
I met an astrologer and she did a reading for me, and I was like, that's my blueprint? You did that? And she's like, yeah, it's all right here. And so I started learning my own natal chart, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're all different languages saying the same thing.
In the past, I've been burned pretty bad by some woo-woo stuff. I've paid a lot of money to a lot of coaches for everything from reprogramming your mind to hypnosis.
And in a moment, I'm gonna tap your knee, and a wonderful experience will arise.
All of this caused me to rack up some pretty serious credit card debt, like really serious. And it's left me a little closed off and skeptical of anything, well, that's not exactly scientific. However, I have also started opening myself back up to the possibility that some of this stuff is actually helpful. I've started a journaling practice where I vision and check in on my vibe. I have daily affirmations that I read and look over. I'm realizing more and more that our mindset really does determine our reality. That doesn't mean reality doesn't also have its own bullshit going on, but I do think our minds are pretty powerful. And so as part of my journey to trying to trust and find the tools that work for me and help me, I asked Melissa if she would read my chart for me. She told me I could ask 2 specific questions. After doing some brainstorming and thinking about it, I settled on 1, where should I focus my energy between now and the end of the year? And 2, what will make me feel more alive and connected in my life?
So I have your 3 charts pulled up here. I have your human design, I have your astrology natal chart, and I have your gene keys hologenic profile, they call it. This body graph is telling us the same thing that this natal chart is telling us in 2 different languages. One uses centers and channels and gates, and this one uses signs and houses and planets. All 3 of these charts are going to give you gifts to yourself about who you are. It so happens that you have sacral authority, which means you have this beautiful response. And they can sell books. You're not an emotional authority. You do not need time to think on it. You know right away whether it's a yes or a no. You might have trouble or need practice using your yes or no response.
Whenever you want.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you punctual? Do you work out?
That's not true.
Do you work out? Do you like to eat different or new types of food?
I would say most of my sacral responses were pretty spot on for how I would answer each question, but there were a few that surprised us.
Do you like your boss? Do you like playing video games?
Oh.
Do you like mayonnaise with fries? Can you tolerate flaky friends? Are looks more important than personality? Would you go off social media for a month? Have you ever given someone a wedgie? Do you like going out? Do you swear that all of these answers are your truthful answers?
No.
That's it.
Okay, sweet. I definitely noticed it was different if I was in a flow. Sometimes I didn't even have to think about it, but unconsciously I heard it and had a yes or no.
Yeah. What's your wedgie story?
Henry or Paulina?
Are looks more important than personality?
That one stuck me up, tricked me up.
Yeah.
I think that one, some of them were when there's something where there's a judgment around it, then my thinking brain kicked in and was what's the right answer, you know?
Which one is your girlfriend have more of?
Looks.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
you were gonna get. Either way, that would set you up. If you would have said personality, it would be like
disaster. Yeah, exactly. With the focus and energy piece, I'm really feeling kind of torn and confused a lot of the time about what direction I should go with my career. I'm starting this YouTube, I have a podcast, I've got my 9-to-5. Actually, since I last recorded, there's been just a few changes around here and I was laid off. You can hear all about it in this video here. I freelance as a photographer, and I love all of these different things, but I also want to make sure I'm not spreading myself too thin. Oh, and I didn't mention I have a feature documentary I'm finishing and a screenplay that I'm writing. So like I said, kind of torn between a lot of things. And I just want to know if I should focus my energy all on one thing, if there's a specific kind of career thing maybe calling out to me, or maybe she'll say something like embracing all your gifts, which because I've also been playing with the idea of maybe I need to just do all of them at once, and maybe that's how my brain operates at its best.
You're a manifesting generator, which means you're a hyper passionate, multi-passionate person. You're not meant to stick with one thing and stay with it. You're meant to dive into passion projects and work on them as long as you want to, and when it no longer lights you up, drop it.
I think that it's really crazy that my design actually speaks to this sort of multi-talented, multi-passionate personality, because I've always been that way and I've always felt my best when I have a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of different projects. It's exciting, it keeps my interest, and I'm ADHD, so it just comes naturally to me. Between hearing that from Melissa and also getting laid off, I really feel like the universe is pointing me towards this lifestyle, even though it's uncomfortable and scary and I don't always know where my next paycheck is going to come from. I really do feel like it feeds my soul in a way that showing up every day at a job just doesn't. And then the other thing, what will make me feel more alive and connected, is kind of based on this feeling I've been having of feeling like, it's almost like FOMO, and it probably is a lot of FOMO, but just kind of I'm not doing enough adventuring or interesting things in my life, and I want to feel more connected to my community, to my friends, feel like a person living in the world. I don't know, sometimes we can be so isolated in our own little worlds. You go a whole day with barely talking to anyone and you're like, do I even exist, So, or with myself, or maybe it's about taking myself kind of out of my normal routine and my normal places and people and trying some new experiences.
You are currently 29. So right now, until January 11th, when you turn 30, you're in the 6th house. And so for the rest of 2023, you're going to be experiencing themes of I serve. And this is going to be, you're going to be looking at your daily routine, your habits, what you do for work every day. You're going to be analyzing all of these work, health, service, self-improvement categories in your daily life. And your 6th house is ruled by Sagittarius. Sagittarius also loves to travel. So you might experience moving in your 29th year. I feel like you did move this year.
Savannah hustling up those stairs.
First morning, alone in a new place. Oh, alone with me, Mouse. Oh, baby, what do you think?
It's interesting that Melissa talks about moving, because I actually didn't tell her this, but I've been thinking about leaving Texas for a while now. And since I did recently get laid off, what better time to move than now? So it's actually official. I'm going to be moving to probably Colorado. It's still a little up in the air, but the mountains are absolutely calling me and I have to go. So while I did move already once into a new apartment to be closer to this job, I'll probably be moving again very, very soon. Melissa also gave me some homework.
So for your last question, what will make me feel more alive and connected? You could look at your life's work.
Oh boy. Okay, this one's it's titled The Pressure of Why. Sounds a little too familiar. Psychosis is kind of like the mass illusion that we're all under as human beings. Inspiration is kind of this creative path, and this is the gift of this gene key. And it's the creative path to try to find answers to the big why. And then sanctity is like this ultimate level that probably no one human can reach in this generation, they said, or this time period. And it's like oneness with the divine. So that also makes, I feel like that's like enlightenment, right? So it's like the journey from illusion to enlightenment is kind of how I see this gate 61.
You could look at your purpose.
As best as I can summarize this 42nd gene key, it's moving from expectation and control of life to like full detachment to the point of like death and dying. So it's like also very much an awakening gate, and it seems like detaching, but like also that it says that like the more you detach, you're still in like, if you get attached to the idea that you're getting detached, right, then like, are you really getting detached at all? So there's like, it talks about like this gate being like the punchline at the end of a joke. Like there's almost like no way you can get it until like that last moment, whatever that is, which I think is death. I'm not really sure. Again, I'm very new to all of this. This is just what I can figure out kind of on the fly. Okay, now I'm gonna check out my pearl.
You could also look at your pearl.
Yeah, I mean, this one talked a lot about relationships. I've struggled a lot with relationships, and you heard Melissa say in my chart that relationships are huge for me and that like partnerships are really hard. But like huge theme for me. And I definitely tend to just like repeat or jump into things that repeat patterns from the past. And so I'm sort of not surprised to hear a lot of these things, and looking forward to how I can, I don't know, embrace more of my uniqueness, I guess, to attract the right people that are supposed to be around me.
Radiance is a really good one too.
So my contemplation questions, you know, it asks like, what needs preserving and what will you preserve for future generations? And I mean, I started this YouTube channel to document my life. I'm making a documentary about my story, my trauma, and like how I healed from that. Like, this just makes so much sense for me, as far as like the documentarian in me, the photographer in me, and that person who's always just wanted to know more and wishes that there was more documentation from the past.
The cool thing about the gene key map is it's not a step 1, step 2, step 3. Think of it as a sphere that you can like rotate and look at any angle at any time you want.
This stuff is incredibly accurate on me. Like this is, I mean, and this is only like what, a handful out of all of them. Like if I really looked at all of these gene keys and all of these gates on my human design, like I can't imagine how in depth that understanding of me would be. But like even the 4 points that she kind of told me to look at for like these big questions that I have are very much things that have been with me for a long time, if not forever, and are just like such a ingrained, integral part of who I am. So it's been pretty cool to go on this journey. I'm super grateful for Melissa for her time and her wisdom and sharing her gifts with me. Please check her out on all of her social media. I'll link them below, and do a session with her if you're interested because it's really informative. I'm really looking forward to diving more into my gene keys. I find it way more intuitive and easy to read than human design. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely subscribe because I might do more videos on this in the future. So I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment below if you have had any of these charts read, your natal chart, your human design, or your gene keys, and share what resonated with you and any questions you have about it as well that I can try to dive into in future videos.
For documentation purposes, she did answer yes to would you go off social media for a month.
I would love to go off social media for a month.